Hi, welcome to Breakthrough Ideas and Training webinar series. I'm Cordell Riley, President of Total Training. My pleasure to be with you today. It's also my pleasure to have a dear friend on this session with me. My pleasure to introduce Bob Gappa to many. Bob and I have known each other for many, many years, and I certainly respect his knowledge and skill, and he's just a great guy and a very knowledgeable person. Bob, welcome to the session.
Thank you very much.
Good deal. So Bob is the founder and president of Management 2000, a company that he started back in 1981. Bob, again, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for many years, but for our audience, they probably not had the same pleasure. Why don't we start out with you giving a little bit of background on Management 2000 and yourself so our group gets to know a feel for Bob Gappa.
Sure. Management 2000 is a consulting company that is focused on helping companies grow. And there are really two ways you can help companies grow. One is by adding new locations, and the second is by creating and retaining customers. And if you want to grow locations, you can do it through franchising or you can do it through company operations. Franchising is really just another form of multi-unit operations. And if you want to create and retain customers, then you have to pay attention to what training is all about, training and development. And training and development builds off of adult learning theory, and it builds off of people like Sengi's learning corporations, learning institutions, where the role of training and development is to develop people to live missions and values between and among one another and with customers, while they implement the processes and technologies developed through ISO 9000, Six Sigma, Total Quality Management, the work of Duran and Deming, and all that comes together in today's environment under training and development and the great concept learning. So that's what we do with companies, and we do it pretty well.
Good deal. And Bob, you started Management 2081, I think, if I'm correct, right?
That is absolutely correct.
What did you do before that?
I worked for a small consulting company, boutique consulting company that serviced the Fortune 1000 companies, and it was operated by a fellow quite well known in management those days. His name was Joe Batten, and two of his most outstanding books were Beyond Management by Objectives, where he was the first person to begin to notice and measure and manage the importance of culture in using management by objectives. And his second book was Tough-Minded Management, which was in 40 languages. Great guy.
Good deal. Good deal. So Bob, in your intro, you talked about, building a company. You talked about a couple of different ways. Obviously, franchising is one way to do it. You also talked about company operations is another way to do it. So we talked about building a company. Bob, if you thought about that, are there some differences between building a company and building a brand, which I know you have a lot of expertise in? Any difference in building a company, building a brand?
Absolutely. When you build a company, your focus is on increasing revenue and controlling expenses. Building a company is about buying low and selling high. The most common metrics when you build a company include things like cost of goods sold, inventory turns, waste, labor, revenue per square foot, margin, gross profit, controlling variables, profit and loss, return on investment, break even, average ticket. When you're building a brand, your metrics don't ignore those, but they include new customers during a certain period of time, the retention percentage of new customers, the retention of existing customers, the frequency with which customers purchase, the breadth of products and services that they purchase from you, the way social media sees and collects customer feedback, how satisfied customers are, how loyal they are, their propensity to recommend, team member satisfaction, team member retention, and team member engagement, to name a few. So building a company is about financial currency. Building a brand is about emotional currency. the way team members and the way customers feel when they work for you and when they do business with you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Bob, what are some of the keys to branding? So as you're talking to your companies and your clientele, what are some of the keys that you talk with them about from a branding perspective?
When you're branding, it's all about creating and sustaining a culture. And a culture is made up of mechanics, the processes and technologies, and the dynamics, the mission, the core values, the brand promise, the brand positioning. So the keys to building a brand are therefore, one is to live the brand's mission, values, promise, and positioning between and among one another as team members, and then with the customers. And secondly, to fully, completely, and consistently implement the processes and utilize the technologies appropriately. And thirdly, you measure both the dynamics and the mechanics, and you set benchmarks against which others within inside your company can be measured against your internal benchmarks, so that
Okay.
you can do root cause analysis when people don't
Okay.
achieve the benchmarks, and see if you need to improve the way the dynamics work or the way the mechanics work through training and development or through leadership. And finally, the fourth key is, particularly when you find out if you're not enhancing what customers value, you innovate when necessary.
Okay. Bob, how does a brand know when they got it right? How does a brand know when it's been successful in what they've been attempting to do? How do they know when they're successful?
Well, over a period of time, when you're growing faster than the market. The measurement is, if the market is growing at 12%, you have to grow faster than that. And so that's one of the key measurements. However, the question that's very interesting is, I was out to dinner the other night with one of our clients, the CEO of a restaurant chain, and he had his new CFO with him. And he was proudly telling me before I met the CFO that this gentleman was a state-of-the-art top CFO in the country. And I said, well, when we sit down to dinner, he said, okay, if I ask him a question to see if it's true. He said, absolutely. So he introduced me to him, and we sat down and made pleasant talk for 5 seconds. And I said, if you could only pick as CFO one metric to know the health of the company that you now work for, what would that one metric be as CFO? And he said, customer retention. And I said, what would your second metric be? He said, customer frequency. So I got goosebumps, and I reached across the table and I shook his hand, and I looked at the CEO and I said, you got the best one you could get.
Great example, Bob. Great story. Great story.
Well, it's good about it, Cordell, is it's true.
Yeah.
So for a brand, what you look at in today's world is the retention of customers. And frequency is second, and third would be how engaged our team members.
Okay.
And you and I both know, and everybody who's listening to this knows, that they pull their hair out every day because people think that training and development in most cases is still somewhat of a luxury and isn't as necessary as being to work on time. And we still ask people to park their brains in the trunk of their car and put them back on when they leave.
Yeah.
And we still think it takes too much time to engage people, but we all know that if you don't engage them, they resist everything. Because people have a right to be involved in what affects them, and all of us in training and development know that the more you involve people, the more that they intellectually understand what is necessary to be successful, And that involvement leads to commitment, which is intellectual understanding. And once you have intellectual understanding, you can have emotional buy-in. And when you get emotional buy-in, you get conviction, which is passion. And when you have
Okay.
intellectual understanding and emotional buy-in, you get implementation. And when you get implementation, you get better results, which is the purpose of change. And so we all know that we have to get the leadership, senior and middle management, to understand that the key skills that they have to have is the knowledge and understanding of what it takes to make change, which is involving people, even particularly the people that resist the most, that give us the most pain. Those are the people that we need to be involved so that they become our advocates. So once we can measure how team members are engaged, and we can measure how the tendency and propensity that our customers have for recommending us, then we can really move ahead. When people understand that these are not HR metrics, these are CFO metrics,
Yeah.
then we'll move forward.
Okay. So, Bob, you've mentioned this a couple of different times, and I clearly know that you have a passion for training, development, learning from the work that we've done and the things I know you've done throughout your career from IFA and other organizations. So I know you have a passion and believe in it. And I've also heard you talk about, knowing where you're successful, if you're looking at metrics and look at that, I think you call it retention of customers, making sure you're retaining your customers. If we go back to the topic at hand, again, breakthrough ideas and training, again, our audience on this call is an audience of training professionals for a lot of different organizations. So if you think about that key metric of retaining customers and we focus on training, how important is training and education into metrics like that, Bob? So if you can give some tips to this group of training professionals as they're looking at metrics inside of the organization, you want to use the example that you put up, how important is training to driving those metrics?
Well, the way we look at retail is theater. It's live theater. And what we do with our clients, and we aren't new, we've shamelessly copied Disney with this, but with pride we have shamelessly copied. And Disney shamelessly copied Shakespeare, who said the world's a stage and everyone's a player. And the world is about theater, and theater is about training people to act appropriately. And when you learn to act appropriately, you have to develop people to understand the character that they're playing in the play. And so, for instance, if you have a hair salon like Great Clips, they have a 5-act play. The curtain goes up when the person comes in and they greet them. And that greeter is an actor. And that greeter has a script which they bring their personality to. And they are trying desperately, they're paid to evoke emotions out of that customer. And we know from research that there are 23 emotions that turn people off and turn people on. And the top 3 emotions that make people want to do work, want to spend money with you is 1, I feel happy before, after, and during business with you. 2nd, I feel like I belong before, after, and during my business experience with you. And 3rd, I feel comfortable before, after, and during my experience of you. And we know that if you can create that, plus if you can let people know you're reliable, you have empathy, that you know what you're doing, that you have control of whatever it is that's going on, and you have their best interests, when you can develop a play around the customer experience and the journey that the customer has within your business, and journey mapping, of course, is just another word for a retail play. But it's all very important to know what critical touch points are important to a customer to make sure that they come back and recommend you. And when you know what the critical touch points are, you develop your personnel who are executing that that moment of truth about the emotions and how they can, by acting appropriately through gesture and smiling and language, how they can draw the emotions of happiness, comfort, and belonging and reliability and professionalism out of, so the customer feels those things. And that's what training and development is about. And we all know, we have all experienced people who are great actors and actresses, and it looks like it's spontaneous. But that's because they're good, and that's what causes encores. That's what, when the curtain drops, people stand up and want them to come out. That's what makes us want a rock band to play again.
Yeah.
That's what makes us go see, I'm sorry he died today, to go see B.B. King.
Yeah.
That's why people at 90 watched him. That's why everybody still, because that experience you had, somebody else could play the same song. It wasn't B.B. King. And everybody now in hotel, everybody today, the importance of training and development cannot be underestimated, because our job is to what we do is we say, look, the customer gives you financial currency, and what they want back is emotional currency. And when the emotional currency that we give them through the experience we provide is greater in their mind than the financial currency, we have paid forward and we have created loyalty, and the customer will recommend us and they will come back. And that's, then we are really, really, really succeeding.
Good deal, Bob. Thank you for that. So a couple things. Yeah, I saw the passing of B.B. King, and I was truly saddened for that today. Obviously, B.B. Riley King shares my last name, his first name, and he's from Mississippi as well. So, yeah, just a true great guy. I'm sorry to hear that. 89, so he lived a very full life. Bob, something else you mentioned in that as well, I'm just going to come back to. You talked about developing personnel as part of the building the brand, and that play that you talked about, and the personnel that obviously executes on that is so key. And that just brings me back to one thing that's really happening in this segment today, as it definitely relates to training, and that's ASTD, American Society for Training and Development, changing their name to ATD, talent development. So they've gone to that focus of saying it's really about developing the talent that's going to execute to move things forward. And I think that ties in perfectly to what you were just touching on right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because talent is letting people know that they can achieve whatever they want to achieve.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So, Bob, I know that your group has
unlocking it.
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah. So, Bob, I know that your company has a new product now that you can help companies that want to become brands. Can you talk about the new product that your group is offering now?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's kind of funny, Cordell. We spent like 32 years knowing how to help companies create great cultures and great place to work and a great place to spend money for customers. And we were very familiar with the work of Gallup. This is the 25th year that Gallup has measured a great place to work. And we all know Reicheld's work with the Net Promoter Score. And we all know that the 100 best companies to work for are companies that make it a great place to shop. But very, very few companies measure these two metrics side by side and correlate them with revenue and profit and growth. So what we've done is created a company product that has team member engagement index, and it has a customer recommendation index. And we do a baseline survey of customers, and we do a baseline survey of team members. The team member one's about 100 questions. The customer one's about 30. And we do just a very few select customers, because we all know people get mad when they get to the 5th question. So we control that so they feel good about it. Once the baseline is done, we periodically, maybe 4 times a year, measure each team member randomly from every location on 16 questions on how they feel about it being a great place to work. And that's the team member engagement index. And so that regularly, you see regularly, weekly, that index on each location, and you can slice it and dice it. Secondly, we measure the customers' index and their propensity to recommend. And the most important thing for training and development with this product is two things. That we don't believe in much value in external benchmarking. What we believe in is if you have 4 kinds of locations, then you have a benchmark for each of those 4. And the best performing store is one that can be emulated by others because they did it. And so they have the same processes and the same technologies and the same mission and core values to live. And so the variables are fewer when you have your own internal benchmarking to do root cause analysis for training and development to be successful in causing change. So what we believe in is measuring each product category. So if you're a restaurant, breakfast, lunch, dinner, catering, late night, delivery, measuring the dollars in each of those buckets and the different times of the day when those buckets have money in them, and who was the leader on that shift and who was on that shift, so that you can actually see and let people know that they can be measured, and then people can be coached for success. It's not about pointing out weaknesses. It's about helping people who want to improve themselves. And it's the approach that makes it work. And so the really cool thing about this product is that if you can create an algorithm, if you can take a great place to work index and a great place to shop and spend money index and average ticket and frequency, you can create an algorithm that will predict future profit and growth. Because if the indexes are down and frequency is down and average ticket is down and the customer recommendation index is down, even with the percentages they're down, or if 2 or 3 of those are down, you can create an algorithm that will say, you're causing us a loss of $1 million. You need some training and development. And if you don't want training and development, then you've got to go wreck somebody else's business. Yeah. But we're measuring you so you can improve. That's the point. And great athletes and great anybody's want to be measured so they can improve. They want their weaknesses pointed out. And that's when you create a learning environment. When you say it's okay to be measured. Performance improvement in HR has been a negative, and it's too bad. It needs to become a positive. It shouldn't be when you go to the woodshed. Performance improvement should be an aspirational thing.
We all should want to grow and do better and find our weaknesses and turn them into areas that we can get better in. Absolutely.
Yeah, improve. The only weakness is somebody who doesn't want to improve.
Yeah. Bob, forgive me if I did. Is there a name for this new product offering for Management 2000? Does that have a title?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's all in caps. It's a made-up word, Experientrix, Experientrix.com.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Bob, thank you. It's been very, very informative. I've certainly got a lot of great things from it. Again, I always enjoy talking with you, and I'm sure our audience did as well. Bob, I think your group has an offer that you wanted to extend to our audience that's listening. You want to talk about the offer that you guys have available?
We do, but I also do want to measure that I'm having this wonderful conversation with you from our Dubai office. And people here in the Middle East, we've been here 2 years, and we have clients in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in India, and here in Dubai. And the businesses here are really buying into customer experience. It's really exciting. The offer that we have, thank you for asking, is a white paper on the lifetime value of a customer. We believe that when you look at at metrics like, what if we retained 10% more of the customers we get that are new? What if we retain 10% more of our existing customers? What if we raised our average ticket 10%? What if we reduce or increase team member retention by 10%? Just 10% can radically change profit and growth. And so we believe in this concept of the lifetime value of a customer. We all know, those of you who've been around a long time in training and development know about the book about the Cadillac dealer in Dallas who tracked his lifetime value of the customer. I'm trying to remember the name, but Sewell Cadillac. It's been around a long time, but not many people have gotten up to it. So I also want to pay tribute before we leave with Peter Drucker, who in 1952 just said that the business of business was creating and satisfying customers. And we may catch up to him yet.
Super, super. Well, Bob, thanks for the offer. I'm sure that our audience will take you up on the offer and get that white paper. So thank you for that. Also, again, Bob, my friend, thank you for doing this. This has been a pleasure for you spending time with us this morning and sharing your years of wisdom and knowledge as it relates to branding, growing companies, training and development, how that all ties together. So thank you for that. Also, thank you, our audience, for joining us today. It's been our pleasure to bring this webinar to you. We certainly hope that you will continue to partake in additional webinars that we'll be bringing on this topic. Also, we'd like to remind you that if you would like to have downloads of these available to use and share with the rest of your team, we are going to be making all of these recordings available for a nominal price that you'll be able to find more information about that on our website. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.